and welcome here today for my Premier League reaction video on this video here today, as I'm going to be reacting to all of the Premier League teams and which position I actually put them in before the season begun 11 months ago. It was a very entertaining Premier League season, of course, as we had a battle at the top of the table between Man City and Liverpool going head to head for the Premier League title. There was a battle in the top four as well between Spurs and Arsenal, and also Man United did drift off at the end of the season. We had obviously West Ham were involved in that top four race. And also at the bottom of the table was a battle between a lot of teams throughout this campaign. Obviously Newcastle down there, they got taken over by consortiums. They obviously reached up to its 11th position. We had Everton fighting out for relegation. We had Leeds at the end of the season between Burnley and Leeds. And we'll find out on this video on which teams I predicted right in the right positions. And we'll see which teams I've got wrong in this Premier League prediction. I'm going to work my way up from the bottom of the table and work my way up to the top of the Premier League table. Let's start the video on which teams I got right and wrong in each position where I predicted them at the start of the season. To be bottom of the Premier League at the start of the season was Norwich City, and I've got that one perfectly right. My first prediction I got is Norwich right at the same position as I predicted them at the start of the season. They were bottom of the league, I had said at the start of the season, because they're a yo-yo club. They're a team who goes up and down every time, all the time. And I felt that at the start of the season. Guess what? I got that one right, I did. I put Norwich bottom of the league 11 months ago, and they were bottom in real life. And I got that one perfectly right. To reflect this season for Norwich, they had a very poor season. A poor season. We expected it to happen. They sacked Daniel Farke in November. They even beat Brentford 2-1, and then after that they sacked him, and then they obviously had Dean Smith after the international break took over his reign, the former Aston Villa manager, and he didn't really steady the ship or anything. He just struggled like the rest of the players did, and even under Daniel Farke as well. And I got that one perfectly right. I don't really feel that Dean Smith would have kept them up, I don't think, when he took over in November. I think the squad of players are not Premier League quality. They might be, some of them might be, but some of them are not. They had Billy Gilmore, a top on loan player from Norwich City. Obviously Tino Pukki, who scores a lot of bangers for Norwich. Does well in the Championship, but in the Premier League he doesn't do as great. And that also happened this season as well. They had a lot of players, of course, didn't play for the shirt at the end of the season. They really gave up, I felt Norwich did. And they always give up, Norwich. The only good thing that Norwich have done this season is to beat their points tally compared to their last campaign in the Premier League. They actually had 21 points they had in the 1920 season when they got relegated to the Championship. When they went straight back up from the Championship to the Premier League, they actually beat the points tally from that season from 21 to 22 points. So congratulations for that, Norwich. But apart from that, you've been absolutely awful this season, and I got that one perfectly right, 20th position, like I said earlier at the start of the season to now, and yeah, Norwich, back to the Championship for them. I predicted Crystal Palace to finish 19th at the start of the season, but I got that one wrong, very wrong. I thought Patrick Vieira was going to be unexperienced in the Premier League, because the Premier League is one of the best leagues in the world with very strong teams compared to when he was at Nice and when he was at New York City. I rate Vieira as a legend, of course, at Arsenal at his time there, as I used to watch him when I was younger. But he actually really made Palace into a top quality team. And Palace did actually finish 12th of the Premier League season this season. Obviously, they had some very good players during this campaign. They obviously beat Spurs 3-0 at the start of the season. They got some good wins, of course, even beating Arsenal as well by 3-0. And they actually really done very, very well, I feel, in terms of the team they have and the squad they've got as well. And even they had players out as well. They actually did okay. And even losing a lot of players at the start of the season when their contracts were expiring. And then they got in some, obviously, Conor Gallagher on loan from Chelsea. He was a good player. He's been for Crystal Palace this season. And they proved me wrong. Vieira's proved me wrong. I thought they would have got relegated. I thought they would have done. I felt that their time was up anyway. At the time, I felt that Palace, they've been there for 10 seasons almost. And I thought, they're going to, they're drifting off a little bit after losing Roy Hodgson. And that spirit is probably starting to fall apart a little bit. I felt that. But then they really proved me very wrong, they did. They proved me so wrong, they did. And they finished 12th in the Premier League. A very strong 12th position. I thought Palace could even push up to all the European places. How the way Vieira's football was fantastic during this season. So I did got that all wrong in 19th Palace. They did finish 12th. So yeah, unfortunately I got that one wrong. So Palace finished 12th. In 18th position, I predicted at the start of the season to now was Burnley. And I got that one actually on dot on that exact same position that I did predict them at the start of the season. I got Burnley right in 18th position. I got two teams right to be relegated, of course, going into this end of this season. And I got Burnley right. I'll say Burnley had a very poor start to the Premier League season. They did draw 0-0 to Norwich. They didn't play as well. They weren't getting any goals in. They had problems in scoring goals. They couldn't put the ball into the back of the net a few times during the halfway period of the season, way back from August to December time, or maybe from January time. And then they lost Chris Wood in January. They did actually show a bit of fight, they did, Burnley, I think, when they played Arsenal, when I went to the Emirates, of course, in January, when they drew 0-0. I thought Burnley showed a bit of fight, and they showed that they can be a Premier League team, and they did that. And then the week after that, they won 3-0 to Brighton, they did. And they fought a bit of momentum they built as well under Sean Dyche. And even losing Chris Wood, their key striker, he didn't score many goals anyways for Burnley, but losing him to replace him to Weghorst, the player from, I think, PSV, I think. Don't get me wrong what team he came from. But they brought him from PSV or Hoffenheim, and he didn't really bring anything into the team. All right, he might have scored 1 or 2 goals. Obviously, Maxwell Cornet was one of the top players for Burnley during this season, and he deserves a lot of the credits. I think he'll go to a big club in the Premier League, like an Everton team or someone like that at next season, I feel. And he'd play a very good part to try and hopefully keep Burnley in the league. But they lost Sean Dyche, was a big blow. They had a very good momentum to try and stay up, they did. They were actually 17th in the league, and they beat Everton 3-2. And then, obviously, 2 weeks later, Sean Dyche was sacked. I thought when Dyche left, I thought Burnley are done. Burnley are done. I don't think anyone will come to Burnley and steady this ship for the next 8 games. I just felt that when they sacked Sean Dyche, it's over for Burnley. You know, he's been there for 10 years at Burnley, you know, and having him to lose a guy like him who actually built Burnley into a team to be pushing above their weight, I just felt that was fantastic for them to do that. But it was a bit of a season that they were found out a little bit, and I think they were found out a lot during the course of this season. Do I feel that Burnley would have stayed up if Sean Dyche was in charge? I think so. I think they would have done if Dyche was a manager from the end of the season. I think they could have had a chance of staying up, but they got Mike Jackson in charge as a caretaker boss, and I didn't feel that he would have kept them up. I mean, all right, he might have beaten Watford 2-1. They might have got a good result there and in, and they got a good winning momentum, of course. And then lost. I think they lost, of course, against Newcastle, and drew against Aston Villa, and lost against Aston Villa really affected them. And then Leeds, of course, stayed up. So I got that one perfectly right in 18th position. So there you go, 18th Burnley. Got that one right, and good luck in the Championship next season, I suppose. In 17th position that I predicted at the start of the season to now was Brentford. Brentford had a heck of a season. They beat Arsenal the opening game of the season by 2-0. And I thought, when they beat Arsenal, all right, we are a crap team. Even now, I feel they're crap, but I just felt that this Brentford team had some fighting spirit they had. They got promoted from the playoffs last season, beating Swansea in the playoffs. They show a lot of fight they did during this season. Beating Chelsea 4-1 at Stamford Bridge was the biggest result they had. Brought in Christian Eriksen, of course, for a 6-month contract. Obviously, he had problems, of course, in Denmark when he had a heart condition he had and everything, and he really played very, very well, he did, for Brentford, I'm telling you. I think he really helped them where they were around January. To push them up to 13th was fantastic, and I feel that, can they even do that next season? I'm not quite sure about that, because a lot of teams like Huddersfield or Sheffield United had a very good season, and then the year after they get relegated for a second season syndrome. That could also happen. If they can keep Eriksen in next season, then I think they've got a chance, perhaps, to survive another season in the Premier League. But they had a very good season. They beat Arsenal 2-0. They beat Chelsea 4-1. They got Eriksen, of course, for 6 months only. And then they did very, very well, they did. And I'm so proud for Brentford. Even my family member supports Brentford as well. So, obviously, good luck to them, of course, for next season. Hopefully, they can even stay up again, maybe. Could do, we'll see. But I did predict them finishing 17th at the start of the season, but they came 13th at the end of this season. In 16th position that I predicted at the start of the season to compare to now was Brighton Hove Albion. Well, Brighton had a very good season. I've got to say, Graham Potter has absolutely proved me wrong. I thought they would have stayed up anyway, Brighton, because Brighton are a team would just scrape survival. I thought that at the start of the season. They've actually done miles beyond that by finishing 9th position in the Premier League. They have some very good players in their team who've done so well for Brighton. Even Danny Welbeck even scoring goals as well for Brighton at the age of his 31 he is. And he wasn't that great at Arsenal, he wasn't, but he's really shown a lot of fight, of course, for Brighton. Even the whole team did, of course. The whole team itself as a whole core, like, Basuma as well for Brighton. Even Arsenal looking at buying him, of course. I think there was talks of him. But, I thought they played so well. They played a good, attractive football during this season. I didn't even felt they're going to finish 9th. I thought they'd probably finish 16th. But they really proved me wrong, they did. They really hit their mark. And, I thought they had a very good season, Brighton. They could have maybe pushed for a European place, maybe so. But I thought 9th would be the best position at their standard to be at, I think. And they might push on that next season. We have to wait and see about that. Even they were in the 4th position they were at the start of the season. They were 4th. They were. So, in a way, they were around that position they were at the start of the season. They really pushed a lot of pushed a lot of quality, they did. They even beat Spurs and Arsenal, they did, away from home. And even beat Man United 4-0, they did. And they do show themselves they want to belong in the Premier League. And they do deserve that, how the way they've played this season. So, fair play to Brighton. Did put them in 16th position, but they even hit a bit higher than that, a lot higher than that in 9th. In 15th position that I predicted at the start of the season was Watford. Well, Watford had a crap season, I'm telling you. I thought they could have stayed up, I thought they could have done. Xisco Menounos was a younger coach. I thought he might have put in a lot of ideas into the team. But then the Watford hierarchy didn't give him a chance. Not give him a single chance. They only had 3 wins he had when he was manager at the start of the season. 3 wins, beating Aston Villa, winning against them. And even won another 2 games. I couldn't remember who they beat against. But they had a very good start to the season. They were 14th in the league that I've heard they were when Xisco was sacked after the Leeds game in October. And when they bring in Claudio Ranieri and then having him sacked in January and having Roy Hodgson to take over his reign after 3 months in charge, I just thought Watford all over the place. Alright, they might have beaten Man United 4, they might have sacked Solskjaer, they might have done by beating them 4-1, they might have got a quality Premier League team. I still think that they got a Premier League team, Watford. The only problem that they got relegated this season because they keep on sacking managers. In 14th position that I predicted at the start of the season was, of course, Wolves. Wolves did extremely well this season, I felt. They played so well. They came 10th, they did, at the end of the season, they did, under Bruno Lage. Even in his first season, I thought they might struggle. I thought they would have done, because I never heard of Bruno Lage. When he came in, I just felt they're going to probably struggle after losing Nuno Espirito Santo. It'd be hard to replace a manager who's been there for 4 years, built Wolves into a top Premier League or European side, and to have him to go, and then, of course, to have Bruno Lage in, a guy that I never heard of before. I just felt they might have struggled. I thought they would have struggled. I thought he would have had less ideas, less experience, but he really played a part during this campaign. Obviously, they had, Dama Traore went on loan to Barcelona in January. I thought that was a big blow, I thought, for Wolves. I think if they can keep him, I think they could have pushed up a little bit higher compared to 10th position. But, I feel that they've got a strong team. There's some very good players, and they had no worries, of course, during this season. They actually were in the Europa League position, even above Spurs. They were at one point, they were Wolves, but they had a very good season they had, and I think they will push on a bit higher next season. I hope they do, because they are a good team. And I like the whole squad of their players, the Portuguese unit they've got in their team, that core of the Portuguese unit they have in their team, and they've actually did that throughout this season, of course. And I did finish them a bit lower compared to 10th, but I thought they had a very good season despite them finishing 10th in the league. So there you go. Wolves put themselves in 14th position at the start of the season, and they came at 10th at the end of the season. 13th position was Newcastle United that I predicted at the start of the Premier League season. What a season Newcastle had. We all thought Newcastle would have fighting for relegation. I thought they would have been relegated in October. I thought they'd been done. After October, before the owners took over the club for Newcastle, when Mike Ashley was still in charge, I just felt they're done. I just felt Newcastle are going to get relegated to the Championship. But yeah, shame they did, because they're a big club, Newcastle. there's some legends who've done a lot of things in the past for Newcastle. Without Newcastle in the Premier League, there'll be no Premier League without Newcastle, with the stadium they've got and the fan base they've got to be a Premier League team, and to have them being bottom of the league under Steve Bruce before he ended his managerial reign. I thought it was all over. I thought they would have got relegated. But then, however, Mike Ashley sold the club to the Saudi Arabia consortiums, and they brought Newcastle United. And I thought from that moment forward, I think they would have stayed up. I thought when they are now the richest club in the world, after purchasing from Mike Ashley, they really, I really felt they're going to stay up. They were bottom of the league at the time, but I thought they would have stayed up. I thought they would have brought in a lot of players in January. They did do that, of course, by Kieran Trippier. They brought Chris Wood. They brought in as well. They brought in this guy from Lyon as well. Can't remember if it's Bruno somebody. I can't remember his last name, but he brought him in. He was a very good player for Newcastle. They brought in, of course, that defender they brought in as well from Brighton, Dan Burn. They brought him in from Brighton, Dan Burn. And they really transformed their team in the space of 6-7 months, and they came 11th in the Premier League. They actually were better compared to where I put them. I put them 13th at the start of the season, but they came 11th instead of finishing 13th, and I thought they played so well during that end of the season, of course. And they even brought Eddie Howe in. When Steve Bruce was sacked, they had Graham Jones. He was caretaker. Then they had Eddie Howe. He turned them around and transformed them into a team to survive, and even now competing for the top half of the table at a space of 7 months. And I really can't wait to see how Newcastle perform next season. They'll probably be like finishing top 7 or somewhere, because they've got so much money they've got to spend, and they've got to be careful, of course, because of the financial fair play rules and that. But I feel Newcastle are going to be a real top team like in the next couple of seasons, I think, and they're going to be like a Man City, win the Premier League, I think. But I hope not. But Newcastle deserve to stay up, really, and fair play to them. Finish 11th, a bit higher than I thought they would have been, but yeah, there you go, Newcastle 11th. In 12th position that I predicted at the start of the season was West Ham United. West Ham, I thought Europa League football they played, I thought with the Europa League, a small squad they've got compared to the top 6 teams. I thought they would have struggled, West Ham. I don't think they would have got relegated, because West Ham are a bigger club to stay in the league. But I just felt that they've got less players, of course, compared to the other top 6 teams. And I think they're going to lose a lot of injuries they're going to probably have during the season. But they didn't do that. They proved me wrong, West Ham. West Ham were in the top 4, race around October, November and December. And even around January, February, they were like in the top 4 race. And had a very good European run, of course. They did very well to beat Sevilla in the Europa League and really got themselves into the semi-finals. Lost to Eintracht Frankfurt, who actually did win the Europa League eventually. They did after that. But for West Ham United to finish actually in 7th position in the Europa Conference League place is fantastic in a way. I think under David Moyes, they've actually transformed themselves into a top 6 side, how the way they've played. But they've got to be very careful, though, because of the less players they've got in their team. If they sell Declan Rice, that'll be a huge problem, that'll be. If they can keep him in, I think that'll be great. Obviously, Mark Noble, of course, got retired. He announced retirement from football he did during this end of this season. We all thought that would happen, of course, at his age. But I thought they did very well during this season, and they really played like a proper team. And to finish 12th, I thought at the start of the season, they proved me wrong, they did. And hopefully they might even prove me wrong again next season. We'll see about that. So there you go, West Ham. In the 11th position that I predicted at the start of the season was Southampton in the 11th position. Well, look, Southampton were absolutely poor they've been at the end of the season. Okay, they might have stayed up because, with the results they had at the start of the season, drawing 0-0 to Man City at the Etihad, to obviously try and get results at the start of the season. They had a very good form, they had a very good run they had of results they had at the start of the season. And even in February, they had a very good February month they had, of course, Southampton, drawing 1-1 against Man United, beating Spurs 3-2. And I felt those results that I mentioned, and even at the start of the season, drawing 0-0 to Man City and even getting results against the other average Premier League teams, I thought that would have kept them up, I think. 40 points they had at the end of this season, came 15th. I thought they didn't really play as well at the end of the season. I thought after they beat Arsenal 1-0 in April, after that, they're all done. They were absolutely awful. They've been. They lost loads of games. They might have drawn 1 or 2. They did. Lost to Brentford. Lost to Burnley. You know, even losing to Leicester at the end of the season. They are going to. I feel for Southampton. I actually worry about them going to the next season because having a poor form for the last 6 or 7 games in April, but did well during the season, of course, in February and at the start of the season themselves as well. Really kept them in the league. But I'll feel for Southampton going to next season. But 15th position was a good position to be at. They did come obviously 4 places down compared to where I predicted them at the start of the season. So in a way, they've got a lot of work to do going into this new season when they play in the 2022 and 23 season for Southampton. But yeah, Southampton, I put them in 11th position, but they came 15th at the end. So I think I got that one wrong, my prediction with Southampton. 10th position I predicted was Aston Villa. Well, Aston Villa had a very heartbreaking season. They had their first season of heartbreak, losing to Jack Grealish to Man City. I thought Jack Grealish was, when I did the video last season, I thought they would have kept Jack Grealish in, but he sold him to Man City for £100 million. They sold him to, and then losing Jack Grealish, and they brought in, of course, Leon Bailey. They brought in Ashley Young. They brought in another former England player, and brought in Danny Ings from Southampton as well. I thought with that team they brought in under Dean Smith when he was manager at the start of the season, I thought they did very okay in results. They beat Man United 1-0. They had a result against Everton as well, 3-0 against them. And they had a very good start to the season, sort of, Aston Villa. But they drift off a lot during October time. I think when they played Arsenal, I thought they started picking up a lot of defeats and a lot of losses. And then they lost to Southampton, and then he was sacked, Dean Smith, and he went to Norwich a few days later to manage them. And then, of course, Steven Gerrard, the manager who managed Rangers in the Scottish Premier League, who won the Scottish Premiership last season and had a very good form in the Europa League with Rangers as well. And to appoint him at Rangers was superb to have, because I think Steven Gerrard is a leader, and I feel that they might even do well next season in his full season in charge. We'll have to wait and see about that. But I think with Steven Gerrard, he really got some results out of Aston Villa. Obviously, he got Coutinho in January on loan. They got from Barcelona. He had a very, very good halfway of this Premier League season for Aston Villa. He did so well, he did. And I thought Villa had some good results they had, of course, going to the end of the season. Even they could have beaten Man City to try and rob them from the Premier League title they could have done. But they did come 14th at the end of this Premier League season. I was only 4 places off of them. I was down 4 places down. I was from Aston Villa, because I did put them in 10th, because I just felt that they got a very good team, and I feel they could have built more on that to a European team eventually. But yeah, they came 14th. Was disappointing in a way, like Aston Villa finished, but they could have done. They might do a lot better with Steven Gerrard's first full season in charge for next season. But there you go. I did put 10th Aston Villa, but they came 14th at the end of this Premier League prediction. 9th position that I predicted at the start of the season was Everton. Well, where do I start from Everton? They had Rafa Benitez, of course, was obviously not a favourite to manage Everton. Obviously, his relationship with Liverpool to win them the Champions League when he was manager there for 4 or 5 seasons, of course. And then to have him to come back to Merseyside, but to manage another team across the city from Liverpool, Everton. A lot of Everton fans didn't buy into it at all. And they had a very good start to the season, Everton had. Obviously, they actually beat Brighton 2-0 at the Amex Stadium. And ever since, their away form was poor, ever since. Their away form was absolutely poor. And they were even fighting for their lives in January. And then they lost to Norwich 2-0, was awful. And then Rafa Benitez was sacked. They sprang in Frank Lampard, a guy who was a club legend at Chelsea and also managed Derby County as well. I thought that it was a very patchy for Everton. I thought Everton were done. I thought around March. I felt they were 18th in the league. They weren't picking up any results. They lost back-to-back results. They lost, losing to Wolves. Losing to a few teams during the Premier League season. They did got a good result over to Man United. They did. So I think that win against Man United, of course, in April, I really felt that moment there. They would have stayed up. I think they would have done. I think when they won that game, and then after they lost to Burnley 3-2, and I thought beating Man United 1-0, but to lose 3-2 to Burnley, I thought they were done after that. I felt Everton, but they had some games in hand though. They had a lot of games in hand. They had, And to beat Chelsea and to beat Leicester and also go and beat Crystal Palace, I thought those 3 wins they had, I just mentioned, really kept them in the Premier League. If they win those 3 matches, I thought they were done. After Burnley, I thought they would have been done. But they won against Chelsea. They've beaten against Palace. They won, obviously, at the end of the season, they did, of course. And also they won against Leicester City away from home. And since those results that I just mentioned, that's kept them in the league. And in a way, Everton should be in the Premier League. They're a club who've been in the top flight for the last 67 years. So, in a way, they did finish 16th at the end. They didn't do as great. They were actually only at least 6 or 7 places below where I actually put them in. I put them in 9th at the start of the season, but then they came 16th, and that was a very, very, very poor season for Everton, and hopefully they can rebuild from that next season in Lampard's first full season in charge for the Evertonians. 8th position of the Premier League that I predicted at the start of the season. I predicted Leeds to finish in 8th position at the start of the season, but they didn't finish 8th. They came 17th, and they're on the verge of getting relegated to the Championship. I didn't want Leeds to go down. I really didn't want to. Leeds are a top Premier League team. They should be in the Premier League with their club and their stature, their tradition and everything like that, but they could have gone down. The only thing what kept them in the league was the results at home. They were absolutely conceding loads of goals during this season. The worst goal difference, I think, that a team to survive in, to have minus 38 on goal difference. It was absolutely poor. Their home form was good. I think the last minute goals they keep on getting at every single game, or most majority of the game of the season, they keep on getting last minute goals over Brentford, a last minute goal against Palace, a last minute goal against Brighton, a last minute victory against Wolves to make it 3-2. They keep on getting last minute results, they keep on getting leads during the course of this whole season. And not just that as well, but the home form has probably kept them in the Premier League. The home form kept them in the Premier League. They could have got relegated, they could have done, and their goal difference was absolutely ridiculous. They actually lost 6-0 to Liverpool, they lost 4-0 to City, they lost 4-1 to Arsenal, and they had to sack Marcelo Bielsa, a guy who actually built Leeds into a team to be a Premier League team, and then to sack him and bring an American guy, Jesse March, in, and he did okay, I thought he did. I think he had some momentum, he had giving the players a bit of positivity in the whole dressing room. They needed a bit of that after losing Bielsa, and it really paid off, and they survived on the skin of their teeth, they did, at the end of the season. But yeah, I was very off of that, only by 9 places off of Leeds. So yeah, I was a bit too over the top of Leeds to finish 8th at the start of the season, but they came 17th of the Premiership. 7th position of the Premier League that I did at the start of the season was Tottenham. Spurs came 4th this season, and I can't believe they came 4th. And I can't believe that Arsenal actually allowed them to finish 4th. Every time we have bad luck against Spurs, every single time. Spurs' mentality is to finish in the top 4 and be above Arsenal, at least. That's their aim. They don't want to win trophies. They want to be above Arsenal every single season. But I did finish them in 7th position at the start of the season. They had a bit of a problem they had, Tottenham. Obviously, Nuno Espirito Santo was manager at the start of the season. He was absolutely appalling for Spurs. They lost, of course, to Arsenal 3-1. They lost to Man United 3-0. They lost against Crystal Palace 3-0. They had a very good start of the season, beating Man City 1-0 at the first game of the season, and to get some result against Wolves as well after that as well. And we all thought that Harry Kane could have left. He could have gone to Man City, but apparently there are now talks that he's staying on at Spurs after that. A lot of teams don't really want him, of course. But yeah. But I did put him finish 7th, but I was wrong on that by 3 places above where I actually put them at the start of the season. So there you go. Tottenham I put in 7th, but they came 4th at the end of the season, disappointingly. 6th position was, I predicted at the start of the season, was Arsenal. I put Arsenal in 6th place, but they came 1 position better compared to what I predicted at the start of the season. I thought Arsenal, with no European football, I feel that they're going to have some fresh legs, compared to the teams who are playing in Europe, like Man United or Man City and Liverpool and etc. I thought they might have get some more momentum back again in this season. And I didn't expect them to sign 5 players at the start of the season. I think they signed Ramsdale, they signed from Sheffield United. They brought in Ben White from Brighton. They brought in some young players even brung into the first team. Not just they brought in the players in the summer, but they really developed younger players like Smith Rowe, Saka. Having Ramsdale in goal, has made some very good saves during this season. Even against Leicester was a good save he made as well during the course of this season as well. And to have that young team and to get rid of the older players like Aubameyang, he was kicked out of the squad apparently. So around December time, and he went off to Barcelona to play for them. And then since losing Aubameyang, we could have brought in maybe someone in January to probably push themselves up to fourth position. We could have done, but Spurs, of course, however, brought two players in. They brought a player from Juventus on loan, and then they brought in another player as well that I can't remember his name. But I don't care about all that because that's Tottenham for you. But we didn't brought anybody. We were absolutely awful on not signing anybody, any players in January. And we could have actually got fourth if we did brought like 2 or 3 players in. But I was happy that we finished 5th compared to 6th, because I did predict them to finish 6th, but they finished above that to 5th. So there you go. I did Arsenal in 5th position, then 6th. So there you go. The position that I predicted at the start of the Premier League season was Leicester City. Well, Leicester came 8th in the Premier League. I was only 3 places below I was compared to what I predicted them at the start of the season. The only reason why I put Leicester in 5th, because they've got some some good players. I thought they're going to carry on kicking on still to try and maybe push for a top 4 place. I felt that after finishing 5th in the 1920 season and finished 5th in the 20-21 season. I thought in the 3rd season attempt they were going to finish 5th again. And I think not just me just predicted Leicester to finish 5th. Even a lot of people thought that they're going to finish 5th of the Premier League season. That's why I put Leicester in 5th for a reason. And they didn't do that, unfortunately. I think they lost quite a few players for injury. They did during the course of this season, and then they did struggle a lot. They were actually eventually 14th in the league. They were like 7 games or 6 games before the season ended, and they did got some results at the end, and they pushed themselves from being in 14th position, 12th position, all the way up to 8th position. But unfortunately, they couldn't play in European football. They got knocked out in the Conference League semi-finals against Roma, and they got no European football to fall back on next season. So in 8th position was Leicester at the end of this season. The 4th position that I predicted before the season begun was Manchester United. Well, Man United have been absolutely awful. Absolutely awful. They actually had to sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in November time, and they had to have Michael Carrick was the caretaker boss for 3 or 4 games. They even beat Arsenal 3-2 they did. And also Ralph Rangnick was the only good thing in that I was so hyped about was Ronaldo, who signed on transfer deadline day from leaving Juventus to go back to his home that he used to play for the last 7 seasons at Man United, his first spell at Man United. He even made him to be a world-class player as he is to this day. And to sign him, I thought when they signed him, I thought Man United would have a very good season. I think they probably might even finish above 4th. They'll probably finish maybe 3rd or 2nd or 1st. When they had Ronaldo, who came in the door on transfer deadline day, I thought they might have finished top of the league. The way they saw a player like him, I thought he was going to go to Man City, but he went to Man United eventually, the club that they made him, of course, in his first spell. And they had a very awful season. I thought they would have had a good season, but they were awful. Okay, they might have picked up a draw. They might have picked up a last-minute victory. The Solskjaer on the wheel, getting results like last minute every time in the Champions League and even in the league itself, beating Spurs 3-0. The only downfall to that was when they lost 5-0 to Liverpool, they lost 2-0 to Man City at the Old Trafford, and they went to Watford and lost 4-1 they did, and Solskjaer was sacked after that. And then Ralph Rangnick took over as interim, and he didn't do not as great. I never heard of Ralph Rangnick before, never heard of the coach before, never heard of him. And he came in, he did okay, I think, for the first 2 or 3 games. I think they had some results in that around Christmas time. And then they started to drop points and lose games. Drop points, lose games. He keeps on having that all the time, drop points, lose games. And then January time happened, and Man United were in 4th place when they beat West Ham by 1-0. And then Mason Greenwood, having some things that he shouldn't have done, of course, like off football, of course, and that probably affected the team quite a lot, I think. And after that, there was a bit of a car crash, I think, Man United after that, February, March, April, losing to Arsenal, losing to Everton, losing Brighton and left, right and centre. And then at the end of the season, they came 6th position they came there. I was only 2 places below I was where I put them at the start of the season, and they had a very bit of a car crash season. And I think they should be looking at a rebuild now. After now they got Ten Hag in, he'll be taking over manager at Man United on the 1st of July, and we'll see maybe if they can improve and build from Ten Hag's methods, perhaps what he got when he was a manager at Ajax. We'll see. But apart from that, this has been the worst season they've actually had. I think the worst season they've actually had for the first time in 30 years, to have the worst points tally compared to the 7 managers who after Ferguson left Man United. So in a way, they've got a lot of work to do going to this new season, Man United. 3rd position, I predicted at the start of the season, was Liverpool. Well, Liverpool did come 2nd and didn't finish 3rd. So I only put them in 3rd position because I just feel that, Liverpool's team and Chelsea as well. I thought Chelsea, after winning the Champions League last season, I thought they might really build on that and really push on maybe for a top table position, maybe Chelsea. I thought Liverpool might drift off a little bit down to 3rd, I thought. But I was wrong about that, and I predict them wrongly about that. I could have put them in 2nd position, but I thought Chelsea, when they won the Champions League, they're going to really build on that in the league. But they didn't do that. Liverpool came up to 2nd. They had a lot of good matches, I think, during the whole season. Obviously, Mo Salah scored some beautiful goals. Sadio Mane, they won the FA Cup. They could have won the Champions League. They lost against Real Madrid by 1-0. They won the League Cup against Chelsea on penalties as well. And they had a very good season, I think, Liverpool, to win 2 trophies, of course, during this campaign. And even to finish 2nd and compete with Man City every single week was superb. And the 2nd position that I predicted before the season begun was Chelsea. That was a bit of an issue, of course, putting Chelsea in 2nd and putting Liverpool in 3rd. But that was my prediction before the season begun, of course. Got to stick to it. Chelsea had a bit of a horrific ending of the season. We'll go to that in a minute. But I thought Chelsea would have come 2nd, first of all. Buying Lukaku, I thought he did very, very well, of course, in Inter Milan to push for a 2nd position. I thought Timo Werner, obviously, had a very poor of last season. 2nd season, he did so well to score quite a few goals for Chelsea. And I thought the whole team was good. You've got Mason Mount, you've got Ziyech, you've got Reece James, you've got all these younger players coming through, making them a big name, household name at Chelsea. And I thought that during why I put them in 2nd position. But obviously things happened off the pitch, obviously with the Ukraine situation with Roman Ivanovic, who owns Chelsea, and the Ukraine problem, and his money was frozen from the UK government, and obviously he had to sell the club at the end by American consortium. And but through that season, with them having that change behind the scenes, and to have them, of course, to have a good start to the season but have a poor ending to the season, drawing 2-2 against Wolves, losing to Arsenal 4-2, might got a couple wins or victories at the end. It wasn't very good for them. But maybe next season they could maybe not compete, unfortunately, for the top 3. Maybe they might have to try and compete maybe for Europa League. It all depends how the way the owner of Chelsea, this new owner who comes in, how is he going to invest into the club? Is he going to invest like Ivanovic, or is he going to invest into low prices like what Arsenal have with Kroenke and the Glazers at Man United? It's all unknown at the moment. But to have them to finish 3rd in the league is good, but I don't know how it will come out next season for Chelsea in next season's campaign. This prediction to have Man City top of the Premier League, as I predicted it, as spot on, as at the start of the season, I did put Man City at the top of the Premier League to win the league. And guess what? Obviously, 11 months later, they are Premier League champions. And I thought Man City would have done it, because I just think that, okay, they lost Aguero. He left, of course, in that summer. They obviously had Gabriel Jesus could score goals. You've got Sterling. You've got Phil Foden. They've got Kevin De Bruyne. They've got a very good team to win the Premier League. And they've got more experience compared to Liverpool to win the Premier League. So I just felt that Man City with Guardiola, his track record as a manager, he always finds a way to win a league trophy. At his time at Bayern Munich, his time at Barcelona, at his time at Man City, he wins trophies. He's only missed out at least 3 or 4 seasons as a manager in his managerial career on a league title. And I just felt it was really easy to put Man City in first place. I'm so glad they are first, because I just felt that, I like to get another team right in my predictions during this video here on this video on my channel, and I did. I got obviously Man City right, I got Norwich right, and I got Burnley right in the relegation zone, and also the champions of the Premier League, Man City. And it was a good season for them, I felt. And they could have maybe done better, perhaps, Man City, to try and hopefully beat Real Madrid to play in a Champions League final against Liverpool. That would have been fantastic. It would have been if two English sides go head-to-head, not just in the Premier League, but also in the Champions League as well in the final. But it didn't happen. But they'll be very happy to take this Premier League title once again, of course, for the 5th time for Guardiola's Man City. This video, please leave a like, and also, subscribe to my channel if you watch this video here on my reaction of my Premier League predictions. I'll be doing also my Premier League predictions going to the new season of the 2022 and 23 season. That will come out around approximately when before the season just starts, around August. It'll probably be the week before the season begins when I'll do my Premier League predictions going to the new season, of course, in the 22-23. If you like, just like, subscribe, and peace out.